Welcome to Agweek TV. I'm Michelle Rook. Farmers have made huge planting progress in the region the last 2 weeks. Iowa was the leader last week, planting 50% of the corn acres, and Minnesota and Nebraska weren't far behind. All the states in the region are ahead of normal. Iowa farmers also planted nearly 37% of their soybeans last week, with Nebraska 17%. And Minnesota led on spring wheat planting with 53% of the crop seeded in 1 week. They're now at 72% done. South Dakota is also well ahead of average at 81%. With the weather finally cooperating, planting has been running close to last year's near record pace. I caught up with farmers in Iowa and South Dakota that were taking advantage of the great planting window. Rock Rapids farmer Dean Meyer can't recall a year he was able to finish this fast.
This year's been amazing. You know, we all were worried about being cold and not getting to the field, and it's just like a switch. The weather changed, and we got our corn all in 7 days.
Meyer says some farmers are planting soybeans at the same time or before corn with the ideal conditions and didn't have to go around potholes.
Planting conditions could have been better this year. Every square foot of the farms got farmed.
One more done.
An hour south, Dave Herron is finishing up a successful planting season.
I would say it's record pace as far as getting it done, because we get all day to work and everything's working so well.
He planted in a cloud of dust and 2 inches deep so the seed would hit moisture. But he says it's too early to get concerned about drought, especially with today's genetics.
A few timely rains and we'll be all right. I've seen this before, and we've come out of it all right.
His planting scheme was routine, except one corn-on-corn field he decided to plant to beans with the high price of fertilizer.
It's just, beans are just such a cheaper crop to put in, and $15 beans is a pretty good ticket.
In northeast South Dakota, Chad Schooley was planting corn while his hired man was planting soybeans. Unlike much of South Dakota, there's good moisture there to start the crops.
Castlewood area is one of the few places in the state that isn't lit up with some drought, but we're not far from it.
Schooley got inputs locked in early, and with higher grain prices, he's feeling good to start the season.
This is the first time since probably 2012 that with our guarantees, we're going to the field with a profit locked in for next fall.
Minnesota farmers also planted 42% of the corn and 21% of the soybean crop in the week ending May 2nd, and made even more progress this week. In the southeast part of the state near Rochester, Tom Pfefferone and his son Aaron got started planting on April 27th. Tom says they haven't had much rain in his area over the last month, so the ground is getting fairly dry, but they're still planting into good moisture, so he's not concerned about the dry conditions yet.
I do like it a little bit dry when you're planting, because I think you have a tendency to get a better root system under corn and soybeans and that kind of stuff. The roots go down instead of spread out. And if you get dry weather later on in the season, I believe it makes a big difference.
Pfefferone is using practices like cover crops and no-till to help conserve valuable soil moisture, especially if it stays dry through the season. Although many areas of the northern plains are facing drought-like conditions this planting season, in Colfax, North Dakota, producers like Jay Myers have plenty of subsoil moisture to spare, as it's been the wettest part of the state for the past year. Despite a dry 2020 harvest and one of the driest springs in a while, he says subsoil moisture has them set up well for planting. It's only the temps that have been holding them back.
This year's just been a little bit colder, so we've kind of been a little more cautious getting started because of the cold weather. The soil temperatures are probably a little bit colder than normal, but that could change pretty fast in another week if we start to get some heat.
Even with the delay, Myers expects to have all his corn and soybeans planted by the middle of May.